Welcome, dear listener. As we begin this journey, I invite you to settle into a quiet space, one where you can relax and allow your mind to open gently to the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. This journey is one of both profound learning and restful reflection, a path that will lead you through the pages of his meditations while encouraging a calm and peaceful state of mind. Over the next few hours, as we explore his thoughts, you'll find not only insights into philosophy, but also a soothing space for rest, relaxation, and inner peace. As we embark on this exploration together, I ask you to take a moment to connect with your breath. The breath is the anchor of the present moment, always with us, steady and constant, even when the world around us is not. It is a reminder that we can slow down, that we can center ourselves, and that we can find stillness amidst the noise. So, let's take a brief pause to focus on the rhythm of our breathing. This will be a gentle exercise, nothing hurried or forceful, just an invitation to be present, to let go of any distractions, and to settle into the moment. Take a slow, deep breath in slowly, and now exhale gently. Let the air leave your lungs, soft and unhurried. Feel the calming sensation as your breath flows effortlessly in and out. Inhale again and exhale. Let each breath ground you further, bringing you into the here and now. Allow your thoughts to soften with each exhale. Allow yourself to become more centered, more present. Inhale once again, hold for a brief moment, and now exhale slowly, releasing any tension, any lingering thoughts that might try to pull you away. Feel the stillness expanding with each breath, a calm presence within you that connects you to the present moment. As we continue breathing together, gently let your awareness expand beyond your breath to the space around you. Let the air in the room, the quiet sounds, the stillness, all become part of your awareness. And in this space of calm, we will now begin our journey back in time to the heart of ancient Rome, where Marcus Aurelius, the man whose wisdom we are about to explore, once lived. His story, and the timeless teachings he left behind, will serve as both a guide for our understanding and a balm for our inner peace. Marcus Aurelius was born in the year 121 AD, in the heart of the Roman Empire at the very zenith of its power. Rome, at this time, was not just a city, but the center of an empire that stretched across much of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. It was an empire of incredible wealth and grandeur, one whose influence reached from the British Isles to the farthest corners of the Middle East. Picture, for a moment, the hustle and bustle of ancient Rome, the grand forums, the towering columns of marble, the noise of merchants selling their goods, the clamor of soldiers preparing for battle, and the unyielding ambition of a city that ruled much of the known world. The empire, though vast, was unified by a single vision of dominance, culture, and power. In the midst of this empire, Marcus Aurelius was born into a noble family. However, unlike many of his peers, who were groomed for a life of luxury and ease, Marcus's path would be marked by a deep intellectual rigor and a commitment to virtue. He was not raised simply to inherit wealth or position, but to become a man of wisdom and moral integrity. His upbringing, steeped in the values of the Stoic philosophers, would shape not only his mind but his soul. Stoicism, a school of thought that emphasized rationality, virtue, and the acceptance of fate, would become the foundation upon which Marcus would build his life and rule. From an early age, Marcus was immersed in the teachings of the Stoic philosophers. He was tutored by some of the greatest minds of his time, who imparted upon him a love for wisdom and self-discipline. These teachings shaped his understanding of the world, encouraging him to focus not on external circumstances or fleeting pleasures, but on the development of inner virtues. Through his teachers, Marcus learned to cultivate qualities like patience, humility, and a sense of duty to others. It was in these formative years that the seeds of his later philosophical reflections were sown. But Marcus's education was not confined to books alone. He was also taught the practicalities of leadership, of how to govern, how to manage people, and how to lead by example. His intellectual and moral training was paired with a keen understanding of the duties that would one day fall upon him. At the age of 17, Marcus's adoptive father, Emperor Antoninus Pius, chose him to be his successor, and Marcus was thrust into the world of power, responsibility, and governance. It was in this moment that he truly began to understand the weight of the crown he was destined to wear. In 161 AD, Marcus Aurelius ascended to the throne as the Roman Emperor, taking on the responsibility not only for the empire's vast territories, but also for the welfare of its people. His reign would be marked by several challenges, the most pressing of which was the Marcomannic Wars, a series of conflicts that ravaged the empire's northern frontiers. For years, Marcus would be forced to leave the comforts of Rome behind and march with his legions along the Danube River, engaging in military campaigns to defend the empire from barbarian invasions. It was in these military campaigns, far removed from the distractions of court life, that Marcus began writing his meditations. His thoughts were not meant for public consumption or for scholarly analysis. Instead, they were deeply personal reflections, written in the solitude of military camps, as a way for Marcus to cope with the immense pressures he faced. The meditations were not the polished words of an emperor, but the raw, honest musings of a man grappling with the challenges of power, morality, and mortality. They were his lifeline during moments of solitude, his way of grounding himself in the midst of war and chaos. As Marcus battled along the frontiers, the Roman Empire was struck by a devastating plague, the Antonine Plague, which spread rapidly across the empire, killing millions. The plague devastated the Roman legions, crippling the military and forcing Marcus to confront the fragility of life on an unprecedented scale. In the face of such suffering and loss, Marcus turned to his philosophy once more, seeking solace in the timeless teachings of Stoicism. It was in this time of crisis, as the empire reeled from both external conflict and internal calamity, that Marcus's meditations came into being. The meditations, written in this environment of constant upheaval and crisis, were deeply personal reflections. They were not intended as a guide for the public or for posterity, but were a private journal, a means for Marcus to maintain his inner peace and to find strength in the face of adversity. His writings were his way of making sense of the tumult around him, of finding tranquility amidst the chaos of war and plague. They became his spiritual refuge, a way for him to align himself with nature, to find meaning in his suffering, and to preserve his sense of duty, compassion, and virtue. What makes the meditations so remarkable, even today, is that they are not theoretical musings or lofty philosophical debates. They are the reflections of a man who was living in the midst of one of the greatest crises of his time. And yet, through his philosophy, he was able to find a sense of peace and purpose. Marcus was not only an emperor, but also a man grappling with the same questions that we all face. How do we find meaning in our lives? How do we cope with loss, suffering, and mortality? And how do we live with virtue and honor in a world that is often chaotic and unpredictable? As we delve deeper into Marcus's reflections, it is important to remember that these meditations were not meant to be lofty ideals, but practical guides for daily living. They were, in essence, Marcus's way of reminding himself how to live with dignity and wisdom in the face of uncertainty. His words offer a blueprint for how we, too, can navigate the challenges of our own lives, cultivating inner peace and resilience in the face of adversity. In this way, the meditations serve as a timeless guide for living a life of purpose, virtue, and tranquility. Though written in a distant past, their wisdom is as relevant today as it was in the 2nd century. As we explore these writings, let us approach them with the same spirit of quiet reflection that Marcus himself brought to them. Let us find his words not just ancient wisdom, but a living, breathing philosophy that can guide us in our own lives, helping us to cultivate peace and serenity amidst the noise of the world. As Marcus Aurelius embarks on his philosophical journey within the pages of his meditations, he invites us into a quiet and intimate space, where, in a profound act of gratitude, he He pauses to acknowledge all those who have contributed to his formation. In an impressive list of names and virtues, he offers us not just a glimpse of his life, but a reflection of his character and the immense value he placed on human relationships. Far from being a man of isolation or self-sufficiency, Marcus was deeply shaped by the people he encountered along the way. In Book 1, he begins with a simple yet powerful reflection, one that is easily overlooked in the hustle and bustle of modern life: gratitude. He does not merely recognize the virtues and values imparted by his family. He commits to keeping those virtues alive within himself. Marcus's gratitude is a lesson in itself. He reminds us that life, with all its complexity, is not a solitary experience, but a continuous exchange of love, wisdom, and influence. He starts by recalling his grandfather, the first person to provide him with a model for how to live a good life. From him, Marcus learned the importance of self-control and the cultivation of good character. His grandfather was a beacon of wisdom, teaching him to temper his emotions and to act in accordance with reason. In acknowledging his grandfather's influence, Marcus does not just express thankfulness, but a deep understanding of how essential self-restraint is to a virtuous life. It is not the loud voice or the forceful will that shapes a person, but the quiet strength of inner discipline. Next, Marcus turns to his father, from whom he inherited a more tangible, yet equally important, virtue: modesty. His father's simplicity in life, his humility, and his clear sense of masculinity were not just qualities to admire, but qualities to emulate. It was through his father's example that Marcus learned to live without ostentation, to avoid the trappings of wealth and power, and to focus on what truly matters. His father, in his quiet way, taught Marcus the importance of living a life that is true to one's nature, one that does not seek approval from others or rely on external accolades for validation. From his mother, Marcus learned the profound value of piety, generosity, and how to live a life free from pride and excess. His mother was a model of virtue, embodying the virtues of kindness and devotion to those around her. It was from her that Marcus learned the importance of caring for others and the quiet strength of living a life of selflessness. Gratitude for her teachings is woven into the very fabric of his reflections, as he acknowledges the lessons of how to live with sincerity and without the need for attention. Marcus's gratitude does not end with his family. He expresses deep thanks to his teachers and mentors, each of whom imparted a specific and actionable virtue that guided his life. These were not distant figures in his life, but real people who shaped his understanding of what it means to be a virtuous person. From his rhetoric teacher, Marcus learned how to express himself clearly and persuasively. From his philosophers, he gained the tools to examine his own mind and soul, to question his own thoughts, and to cultivate wisdom and equanimity. In this extended reflection, we are invited to pause and ask ourselves, who are the people in our own lives who have shaped us? In a world where we are often consumed by external pressures and distractions, it is easy to forget the deep roots of our character. But Marcus's first book is a call to return to those roots, to reflect on the virtues we have inherited and the people who have helped us become who we are. As we gently pause here, let us now take a moment to reflect on our own lives. Think of 3 people, family members, mentors, or friends, who have shaped your character. What virtues did they impart to you? How did their actions, their words, their presence influence the person you have become? Take a moment to simply feel gratitude for them, for the lessons they taught, and for the love they gave. Let this feeling of gratitude fill your heart as we continue on this journey of reflection. After this brief moment of gratitude, Marcus leads us into the next stage of his philosophical exploration. In Book 2, his reflections shift toward the nature of impermanence. He reminds us of the inevitable passage of time, the fleeting nature of life, and the importance of living in accordance with nature. We now turn to the flowing river of existence, where nothing remains the same and everything is constantly changing. As we move forward in Marcus Aurelius's meditations, we enter into the second phase of his philosophical musings, which begin with a meditation on the passage of time and the fleeting nature of existence. In Book 2, he writes, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I have to go to work.' What are you complaining about, you fool? You're going to do what you were born for. You were made for this." With these simple words, Marcus calls us to confront the distractions that keep us from living with purpose, gently reminding us that the struggles we face each day, whether it's the reluctance to rise from bed or the challenges that await us in the outside world, are part of the natural order of things. Our reluctance to act is not a sign of failure, but simply a part of human nature. And it is precisely through confronting this nature, through accepting our role in the world and in society, that we find the path to peace and fulfillment. Marcus begins his meditation on the nature of impermanence by focusing on what it means to be human in the world, a world that is constantly in flux. He reminds himself that everything is temporary. Soon you will be dead, and soon the things you are worrying about will be forgotten. Everything we hold dear, everything that causes us pain, joy, and anxiety will one day be gone. Life, in its very nature, is transient. Nothing in the world, no matter how powerful, will remain the same forever. When we consider the vastness of time, the universe, and the fleeting nature of our lives, our daily concerns shrink in significance. The little frustrations of the day, the things we dwell on so easily, are nothing when viewed through the lens of eternity. As Marcus contemplates the passage of time, he recognizes that it is not the things themselves that cause us distress, but our attachment to them. We struggle, not because of the things we encounter, but because of the way we cling to them. This is the core of Stoic wisdom. By letting go of our attachment to external outcomes, we free ourselves from the tyranny of our desires. It is in this context that Marcus asks himself, "What is it that disturbs me? Why do I feel frustration, anger, or impatience?" It is because I'm holding on to things that are fleeting, that are not meant to last. In the grand sweep of time, what does it matter if today's annoyance, today's failure, is soon forgotten? By recognizing the impermanence of everything, our emotions, our plans, our lives, we can begin to release the hold they have on us. In the stillness that comes with this realization, we are free. But Marcus does not stop there. He goes on to reflect that the only thing truly within our control is our own thoughts and actions. External events, the actions of others, and the inevitable passage of time are beyond our grasp. But how we respond to them, that is where our power lies. The Stoic teachings Marcus reflects upon here are rooted in the idea that our minds are the only territory over which we can have full dominion. The natural world will change, people will come and go, but our thoughts, our judgments, and our ability to choose how we respond to life's challenges are always within our control. He writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This powerful statement encapsulates the essence of Stoicism. The world will present us with circumstances we cannot control, but we always have the choice of how we respond to those circumstances. To embrace this truth is to liberate ourselves from unnecessary suffering, for it is not the event itself that causes us pain, but our judgment about it. In this way, Marcus Aurelius teaches us to focus on the present moment. He reminds us that we are never more alive than when we live fully in the present. The future is uncertain, and the past is gone. The only thing that is real is the present. By accepting this, we can move through life with purpose and clarity, unburdened by the weight of what has come before or what may come next. In Book 3, Marcus shifts his focus to the nature of purpose and duty. Here, the tone becomes more resolute as he contemplates the essence of living in accordance with nature. As an emperor, Marcus was well aware of the responsibility that rested on his shoulders. Yet, as a Stoic, he understood that this sense of duty was not merely a burden, but an opportunity to align himself with the natural order of things. He writes, "What is it that I am about to do? Is it in accordance with my nature as a human being? Is it in accordance with my role as a part of the larger whole? These questions guide his reflections on what it means to live with purpose. For Marcus, living in accordance with nature means fulfilling the role for which he was created, not seeking to avoid discomfort or escape from responsibility. At times, we may feel overwhelmed by the demands of life, whether it's the weight of our job, our relationships, or the larger expectations of society. But Marcus reminds us that our duty is not something to resent or avoid. It is our calling. In fact, duty, properly understood, is a source of fulfillment, not frustration. What is it that I'm being called to do today? He asks himself. It is my duty to serve others, to uphold justice, to live with integrity. This is what I was born for. This sense of duty is not limited to the high offices of leadership. However, Marcus's reflection on duty applies to all of us. Whatever our role may be, whatever our station in life, we are each part of a larger whole. Our lives are not isolated. We are connected to others, and it is through our connection to the greater good that we find true meaning. The Stoic understanding of duty is not about the pursuit of personal glory, but about contributing to the larger, interconnected world in which we live. Marcus also touches on the theme of Memento Mori, the reminder that death is always near. In the face of this inevitable reality, he urges us to live fully in accordance with nature. By accepting the certainty of death, we are freed from the fear of it. Death is not an enemy to be feared, but a natural part of existence. To live in fear of death is to resist the natural flow of life. Instead, Marcus teaches us to embrace the knowledge that death will come. But in the meantime, we have the opportunity to live virtuously, to live with purpose, and make the most of each precious moment. In these reflections, Marcus Aurelius teaches us that the way to live with peace is to live in harmony with nature. Our nature as human beings is to reason, to act justly, to fulfill our duties, and to align ourselves with the natural rhythms of life. By doing so, we find a deep sense of peace, for we're no longer struggling against the flow of existence. We are at one with it. As we continue with these reflections, let us take a moment to consider how these teachings apply to our own lives. The next time we face a challenge, a difficulty, or a frustration, we might remember Marcus's reminder that it is not the event itself that disturbs us, but our reaction to it. We might take a step back, breathe, and choose our response wisely. Instead of reacting with frustration or anger, we can choose to respond with reason, with calmness, and with the understanding that everything we face is temporary. And as we reflect on our own sense of duty, we might ask ourselves, what is my role in the world? How can I serve others, contribute to the greater good, and live in harmony with nature? Whether we are leaders, caregivers, parents, or simply individuals navigating the complexities of life, our duty remains the same: to live with integrity, to act justly, and to fulfill our role in the grand design of the universe. As we continue our exploration of Marcus Aurelius's meditations, we find ourselves at a critical juncture in his reflections, a place where he invites us to turn inward. In Book 4, Marcus lays out one of his most enduring and powerful metaphors, the concept of the inner citadel. This citadel is not made of stone or mortar, but of the mind, a fortress that is impregnable, impervious to external disturbance. It is a space where the soul can retreat and remain untouched by the storms of life. In this space, the mind can find peace, no matter what turmoil may be happening outside. Marcus begins this part of his meditation by reflecting on the power that we hold over our minds. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This simple but profound statement encapsulates the essence of Stoicism, the understanding that while we cannot control the events that happen to us, we always have control over how we respond to them. The external world, with all its chaos and unpredictability, will always be out of our grasp, but our thoughts, our judgments, and our emotions are within our domain. The idea of the inner citadel is not just a theoretical concept for Marcus. It is a deeply practical tool for living. It is a mental space where we can retreat when faced with stress, where we can protect our inner peace from the disturbances of the world. He urges us to retreat into this citadel whenever we feel troubled or unsettled. If someone does you wrong, don't let their actions disturb your peace of mind, he writes. Instead, remember that it is not the person who is the cause of your distress, but your judgment of their actions. This is the Stoic insight, that it is not the event itself that disturbs us, but our interpretation of it. Marcus teaches us that our emotions are not automatically triggered by external events. They arise from our own judgments. If someone insults us, for example, it is not the insult itself that causes pain, but our perception of it. We might think, this person is disrespecting me, or I'm being unjustly treated. But these are judgments, not facts. If we change our judgment, we can change our emotional response. Marcus encourages us to practice this shift in perspective regularly. We cannot control the world, but we can control our reaction to it. And in doing so, we reclaim our peace. As he reflects further on the nature of the inner citadel, Marcus introduces the idea that we must constantly guard against the encroachment of negative thoughts and emotions. Just as a fortress is fortified against external invaders, so too must the mind be fortified against unproductive and harmful thoughts. Whenever your thoughts wander away from what is right, return them to the proper place, he advises. Do not let your mind be overrun by distractions or unnecessary concerns. This act of mental discipline is essential to Stoic practice. It is not enough to simply be aware of our emotions. We must actively work to control them. This requires constant vigilance. Marcus encourages us to examine our thoughts regularly, to ask ourselves whether they are serving our well-being or leading us into despair or frustration. It is through this practice of self-examination that we can strengthen our inner citadel, making it ever more resilient to the challenges of life. In addition to the inner citadel, Marcus also delves into the concept of opinion versus reality. In Book 4, he writes, "It is not events that disturb us, but our opinions about them." This distinction is crucial. The external world is, by its nature, neutral. It simply is. It is our interpretation of the world that colors our experience. If we believe that someone's actions are an attack on us, we may feel anger or resentment. But if we recognize that their actions are simply a reflection of their own nature, we may feel compassion instead. Marcus emphasizes the power of choice when it comes to our opinions. We can choose how we see the world, and in doing so, we can shape our experiences. By learning to distinguish between events and our opinions about them, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. This is one of the cornerstones of Stoic thought, the realization that our minds have the power to shape our reality. As we read these reflections, we are reminded that our emotional state is not determined by the outside world, but by how we choose to engage with it. If we adopt the perspective that events are neither good nor bad in themselves, but only become so through our interpretation, we can begin to see the world with more clarity. We can respond to challenges with equanimity, knowing that we have the power to choose how we react. Now, as we transition to Book 5, Marcus takes us deeper into the practice of Stoic living. He begins this book with a reminder of the importance of daily preparation. At dawn, remind yourself, "Today, I will meet people who are rude, selfish, and arrogant." This passage highlights one of the most important aspects of Stoic practice, the preparation for adversity. It is not enough to react when challenges arise. We must anticipate them and approach them with calmness and resolve. Marcus encourages us to prepare ourselves mentally for the challenges of the day. He reminds us that we will encounter difficult people, difficult situations, and difficult emotions. But rather than reacting with surprise or frustration, we can meet these challenges with composure. Do not be surprised by the actions of others, he advises. Understand that they're simply acting according to their nature, just as you are acting according to yours. This approach to adversity is rooted in the Stoic principle of premeditatio malorum. the premeditation of evils. This is the practice of imagining the difficulties that might arise in our lives, so that when they do come, we are not caught off guard. By mentally preparing ourselves for life's challenges, we reduce the emotional impact they have on us. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can respond with patience, wisdom, and clarity. In addition to preparing for adversity, Marcus also emphasizes the importance of not seeking external approval. In Book 5, he writes, "You are a part of the whole. What benefits the whole benefits you." This reminder is crucial in a world where so much of our sense of self-worth is tied to external validation. We are often tempted to seek approval from others, to seek fame, wealth, or status. But Marcus teaches us that true fulfillment comes not from what others think of us, but from living according to our values and purpose. By focusing on what is within our control, our actions, our character, our integrity, we free ourselves from the need for external validation. Marcus urges us to act with virtue, regardless of whether others notice or approve. In doing so, we align ourselves with the natural order and live a life that is true to our inner principles. As we consider these reflections, let us pause and think about how we can apply them to our own lives. How often do we seek approval from others? How often do we react to external events instead of choosing our response? Marcus's teachings invite us to step back from these impulses and to live with greater intention, greater clarity, and greater peace. As we move forward with Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, we now turn our attention to Book 6. Here, Marcus reflects on one of the core teachings of Stoicism, the acceptance of change and the ever-present reality of impermanence. This part of his work provides deep insight into how the Stoic can cultivate peace by accepting the flow of life, understanding the transient nature of all things, and recognizing the natural cycles that govern the universe. In the opening passages of Book 6, Marcus reminds us that we are a part of something much greater than ourselves. He writes, "Everything is ephemeral, both the one who remembers and the one who is remembered." This is a profound reflection on the nature of existence. We are all but a small part of the vast, unfolding story of the cosmos. Our lives, our memories, and our legacies will one day fade, just as we, too, will eventually pass away. The world continues, as it always has, and will continue long after we are gone. In this passage, Marcus invites us to contemplate our place in the grand scheme of things. We are not permanent fixtures in the universe, but transient participants in an eternal process. The cycles of birth and death, creation and decay, are part of the fabric of the cosmos. To fight against this truth is to fight against nature itself. Stoicism teaches us to align ourselves with the natural world, to accept the cycles of life, and to find peace in the knowledge that we are not separate from the great flow of existence. For Marcus, accepting the ephemeral nature of life is not a cause for despair, but a path to tranquility. When we accept that everything, including ourselves, is temporary, we free ourselves from the fear of loss. This acceptance is not about resignation or passivity, but about embracing the impermanence of life with grace and dignity. When we come to terms with the fact that all things, our bodies, our possessions, our relationships, are temporary, we learn to hold them more lightly. We no longer cling to them out of fear, but can enjoy them for what they are, knowing that they will one day pass away. Marcus encourages us to reflect on this truth daily. By reminding ourselves of the fleeting nature of all things, we can cultivate a deeper appreciation for the present moment. Instead of wasting time on worry or regret about the past or future, we can focus on what is before us now. He writes, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will change it. For I seek the truth by which no one was ever harmed. It is the person who continues in his self-deception and ignorance who is harmed." Here, Marcus invites us to consider the importance of self-awareness and the willingness to change. The Stoic is not someone who stubbornly clings to their beliefs or actions, but someone who is open to correction, open to growth. The Stoic's mind is flexible, willing to align itself with reality, with truth, even if that means letting go of previously held convictions. The key is to live in accordance with nature and reason, not in defiance of them. The acceptance of change extends beyond the individual to the recognition that the universe itself is in a constant state of flux. The Stoic understands that everything in the universe follows a natural law, a law that governs the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of stars, the coming and going of seasons. Marcus writes, "Nature is change. Life is the unfolding of nature's plan. We are all a part of this unfolding. In acknowledging the impermanence of all things, we learn to embrace the natural rhythms of life. We no longer resist the inevitability of change, but flow with it. When we encounter adversity or loss, we can remind ourselves that this too is part of the grand plan of nature. To fight against the ebb and flow of life is to create unnecessary suffering. By accepting the changes that come our way, we can live in harmony with the universe, moving through life with a sense of equanimity and peace." In Book 6, Marcus also reflects on the importance of maintaining a proper perspective. He writes, "What is it to be human? To be part of nature and to fulfill your purpose in the world." This reflection calls us to remember that we are not isolated beings, but integral parts of the vast web of life. As human beings, our purpose is not to control the world around us, but to act in accordance with nature. This means accepting what we cannot change, working with what we are given, and living in harmony with the laws that govern the universe. Marcus further encourages us to look beyond ourselves and consider our role in the greater community. He reminds us that we are all connected and that our actions affect the world around us. "We are all part of the same whole," he writes. "What benefits the whole benefits you." This is a central tenet of Stoicism, the understanding that our well-being is tied to the well-being of others. To live in accordance with nature is to act in a way that benefits not just ourselves, but the entire world. This is a powerful reminder that the Stoic path is not one of isolation or selfishness, but one of connection and service. By living virtuously and in harmony with nature, we contribute to the greater good of society. We fulfill our role as members of the human community, not by seeking personal gain, but by acting with integrity, kindness, and compassion. We are not here to build our own empires, but to contribute to the greater good of the whole. Marcus emphasizes this connection between individual well-being and the well-being of the world by saying, "What is your duty? To live virtuously, to fulfill your role, and to contribute to the greater good. You are not an isolated being. You are part of a greater whole. To live well is to live in accordance with a larger natural order." At this point in his meditations, Marcus also reflects on the nature of change itself. He reminds us that change is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. The Stoic accepts change because it is an inevitable part of life. The universe is constantly in motion, and everything in it is subject to the law of change. This includes our own lives, our bodies, and our experiences. To resist change is to resist the very nature of life itself. Marcus writes, "Everything that happens is the result of change. Life is change. It is what makes the world go round. Nothing stays the same. We are born, we live, we die. We grow, we age, we wither. It is the nature of life. This is not a bleak or depressing realization, but one that can bring peace and clarity. When we accept the nature of change, we no longer fear it. Instead, we embrace it as an essential part of our existence. We learn to appreciate the fleeting beauty of life, knowing that it will pass, but that it is precious precisely because it is temporary. In this acceptance of change, we also learn to accept death. Death, for Marcus, is not something to be feared, but something to be understood as a natural part of the cycle of life. He writes, "Do not despise death, but welcome it, for nature also wills it." This is a crucial point in Stoic philosophy, the understanding that death is not an end, but a return to nature. It is not something to mourn, but something to accept with grace. To fear death is to fear life itself. For death is as much a part of life as birth. The Stoic, then, does not live in fear of death, but in the full awareness that life is fleeting. This awareness does not cause despair, but instead brings clarity. We are reminded to live fully in the present, to act with purpose, and to contribute to the greater good of the world. The knowledge of death's inevitability allows us to live without regret, to appreciate the moments we have, and to make the most of our time on earth. As we reflect on Marcus's teachings in Book 6, we are invited to embrace the natural rhythms of life. Change is inevitable, and by accepting it, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. We also recognize our role in the larger world, understanding that our well-being is intertwined with the well-being of others. By living in accordance with nature, we align ourselves with the greater cosmic order, finding peace in the acceptance of impermanence and the cycles of life. Let's take a moment to consider how we might apply these lessons in our own lives. How often do we resist change, cling to the past, or fear the future? Marcus teaches us to embrace the natural flow of life, to live fully in the present, and to act with virtue and integrity. By doing so, we can find peace, not in the absence of change, but in our acceptance of it. As we continue our journey through the pages of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, we now enter into Book 7, where Marcus reflects on the nature of virtue, the simplicity of a good life, and the true source of happiness. In this book, he offers us profound wisdom on how to live in accordance with nature, how to align our actions with reason, and how to cultivate a life that is not based on external wealth or fame, but on the cultivation of inner virtues. The opening words of Book 7 are a powerful reminder that happiness does not lie in the acquisition of external possessions or the pursuit of fleeting pleasures. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. This is a theme that Marcus returns to again and again throughout his meditations. That true happiness is not found in what we possess or achieve, but in the way we approach life, in our ability to act with virtue, and in our capacity to live in alignment with our inner values. This reflection challenges the common misconception that happiness is something that must be acquired, something that we can only obtain through the pursuit of wealth, status, or recognition. In fact, Marcus teaches us that the pursuit of these external goods often leads to frustration and disappointment. The reason for this is simple. External circumstances are beyond our control. We cannot control the weather, the actions of others, or the events that shape our lives. Therefore, basing our happiness on external factors is a recipe for inevitable dissatisfaction. True happiness, according to Marcus, lies in the cultivation of virtues such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These are the qualities that can bring peace to our hearts, no matter what the world may throw at us. What is it that makes you unhappy? He asks. Is it not your thoughts, your judgments, and your desires? This question cuts to the core of Stoic philosophy, that our emotional responses to the world are not determined by the world itself, but by how we choose to interpret and respond to it. In this light, Marcus's reflections on virtue are an invitation to turn inward. Instead of seeking happiness through external accomplishments, we must seek it by cultivating virtues within ourselves. The good life, for Marcus, is a life of simplicity, of aligning our actions with our true nature, and of living with integrity, honesty, and kindness. He reminds us that our character is our most valuable possession, and it is in the cultivation of a strong and virtuous character that we find the true source of happiness. As we continue reading, we are reminded that the path to virtue is not an easy one. It requires effort, discipline, and continuous self-examination. But Marcus encourages us by saying, "You have been given the means to achieve happiness within yourself, and it is up to you to use them." We do not need to search for happiness outside of ourselves, for it is already present within us, waiting to be discovered through our actions and our thoughts. In the next sections of Book 7, Marcus reflects on the role of character in shaping our destiny. He writes, "Your character is your destiny. This statement serves as a reminder that the choices we make each day, how we respond to challenges, how we treat others, and how we approach life's difficulties, define who we are and, ultimately, who we become. Our character is not something that is predetermined. It is something that we shape through our actions and decisions. By cultivating virtue, we have the power to create a life that is meaningful and fulfilling, regardless of the circumstances that surround us. Marcus also reminds us of the simplicity that lies at the heart of a good life. He writes, "Very little is needed to make a happy life." This is a direct challenge to the modern obsession with materialism and the constant pursuit of more. So often, we are conditioned to believe that we need more money, more possessions, more achievements to be happy. But Marcus teaches us that true happiness is found not in what we accumulate, but in how we live, how we treat others, and how we cultivate our own character. The simpler our lives are, the less we rely on external circumstances for happiness, the more peace we can find within ourselves. At its core, Marcus's message is one of inner peace. He teaches us that peace is not something that can be found through external accomplishments, but something that must be cultivated within. It is the peace that comes from living in alignment with our values, from acting with virtue, and from accepting the impermanence of life. In a world that constantly pushes us to seek more and more, Marcus's message of simplicity is a quiet call to return to the basics, to focus on what truly matters, to live with purpose and integrity, and to cultivate peace within ourselves. As we move into Book 8, the tone shifts slightly, focusing now on the importance of action in Stoic philosophy. While much of Stoic thought emphasizes inner tranquility and the cultivation of virtue, Marcus also reminds us that we must not forget the importance of action. Stoicism is not a passive philosophy. It is a philosophy of engagement with the world. In Book 8, Marcus writes, "Do not act as if you're going to live 10,000 years. Fate is at your heels. While you're living, while you are able, make the most of your opportunities." This is a powerful reminder of the urgency of life. The Stoic does not procrastinate. The Stoic does not wait for the perfect moment to take action. Life is short, and we are all subject to the whims of fate. Therefore, we must seize the present moment, take action, and fulfill our duties without delay. This urgency is not about anxiety or rushing through life, but about recognizing that time is limited and that we must make the most of the time we have. It is the awareness that life is fleeting and that each moment is precious. By acting with purpose and urgency, we align ourselves with nature's flow, taking responsibility for our actions and fulfilling our duties without hesitation. In this sense, Stoic urgency is not about pushing ourselves to the brink of exhaustion or overextending ourselves. It is about being present, focused, and committed to the task at hand. It is about doing what needs to be done now without procrastination or delay. As we move forward into Books 8 and 9 of Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, we find that his reflections deepen, addressing not just the inner life but also our relationships with others and our place in the world. Marcus's philosophy is not just about personal serenity or self-mastery. It also emphasizes the importance of justice, compassion, and self-compassion, virtues that govern how we interact with those around us and, ultimately, how we view ourselves. In Book 8, Marcus begins by reminding us that the Stoic must always be prepared for adversity. This is a continuation of the Stoic practice of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Marcus writes, "At dawn, remind yourself, today I will meet people who are rude, selfish, and arrogant. I will not be disturbed by them." The Stoic path is not one of avoiding conflict or difficult people, but of mentally preparing for them. Marcus encourages us to acknowledge that we will encounter challenging individuals, and instead of reacting with frustration or anger, we can approach them with understanding and patience. In this passage, we are reminded that we are not in control of the actions of others. People will be rude, selfish, and inconsiderate, not because of anything we have done, but because it is simply part of their nature. Marcus urges us to approach these individuals with compassion and understanding. Instead of responding to their behavior with hostility or resentment, we can choose to act in accordance with our values. We do not have to mirror their negativity. We can maintain our inner peace by remaining calm, centered, and virtuous. This perspective is liberating. It frees us from the tyranny of other people's behavior. When we realize that the way others act is not a reflection of our worth, but a reflection of their own character, we can stop taking their actions personally. In this way, Marcus teaches us that our peace is not dependent on the behavior of others, but on our own ability to remain true to our principles. Marcus continues this theme by reminding us that we must also be prepared for the inevitable imperfections of human nature. Remember, he writes, that people are born for this, to act in accordance with their nature, just as you were born for this, to act according to yours. In this statement, Marcus acknowledges that all people, including ourselves, are imperfect. We are all flawed, and yet we must still act in the best way we can, given the circumstances. We are all part of the same human family, each of us navigating life with our own struggles and weaknesses. It is through this understanding that Marcus calls us to embrace justice as a central virtue. Justice, in the Stoic sense, is not merely about legal matters or formal rights, but about acting in a way that benefits the whole of society. For Marcus, justice is about recognizing the inherent dignity of every person, treating others with respect, and contributing to the common good. Justice is not an abstract ideal, but a practical guide for daily life. This brings us to a critical reflection in Book 9. The importance of self-compassion. While Stoicism is often seen as a philosophy of strength, discipline, and self-mastery, Marcus also reminds us that we must show ourselves kindness and understanding. He writes, "What is my similar fault? What do I share with this person who has wronged me?" This question is not just about finding fault with others, but about finding common ground, understanding that we all share the same human flaws. By reflecting on our own faults, we are better able to forgive the faults of others. Marcus teaches that to be just toward others, we must first be just toward ourselves. This means recognizing our own imperfections, treating ourselves with compassion, and understanding that we are all part of a greater whole. When we do this, we are better able to practice compassion in our relationships with others, offering them the same understanding and forgiveness that we extend to ourselves. Marcus reminds us that the person who wrongs us is not acting out of malice, but out of ignorance. People do not do wrong knowingly, he says. They act out of ignorance of what is truly good for them. This is a powerful insight. Instead of responding to others with anger or resentment, Marcus encourages us to recognize that their behavior is often the result of their own ignorance or lack of understanding. They are not our enemies, but fellow travelers who are struggling in their own way. By understanding this, we can approach them with empathy and patience rather than judgment. In this light, self-compassion becomes a foundational practice. Just as we forgive others, we must forgive ourselves. The Stoic is not someone who is harsh or self-critical, but someone who is kind, gentle, and patient with themselves. It is through this self-compassion that we are able to act with greater wisdom and kindness toward others. When we recognize our own flaws and treat ourselves with understanding, we are better equipped to extend that same understanding to the world around us. Book 9 also touches on the idea of human interconnectedness. Marcus writes, "You were made for this, to act in accordance with the whole of nature." This reflection calls us to recognize that we are not isolated individuals, but part of a greater whole. Our actions affect others, and the well-being of the individual is inextricably linked to the well-being of the community. To live a virtuous life is not just to live for ourselves, but to live in service to others, contributing to the greater good of society. This understanding of interconnectedness leads to the Stoic ideal of justice as a central virtue. Justice, for Marcus, is not just about adhering to laws or societal norms. It is about acting with kindness, integrity, and fairness toward all people. It is about recognizing the inherent worth of every person, regardless of their status or background, and treating them with dignity and respect. Marcus also emphasizes the importance of forgiveness in the practice of justice. Do not resent those who do wrong, he writes. They are acting according to their nature, and it is through their own ignorance that they harm others. By acknowledging that others act out of ignorance rather than malice, we can approach them with understanding and forgiveness. This is not to say that we should tolerate wrongdoing or passively accept injustice, but rather that we should respond to it with wisdom, recognizing the impermanence of all things and the shared humanity that connects us. Through these reflections, Marcus offers a profound lesson on how to live a just and compassionate life. Justice is not just about following rules. It is about treating others with kindness, understanding, and respect. It is about acting in a way that contributes to the well-being of the whole, recognizing that our actions have an impact on the world around us. As we move through these meditations, we are reminded again and again that Stoicism is not just a philosophy for personal serenity, but a guide for how to live well in the world. It teaches us that our happiness and peace are not dependent on external circumstances, but on our ability to cultivate virtue, practice compassion, and act justly toward others. By living in accordance with nature, accepting the impermanence of life, and embracing the interconnectedness of all beings, we can find true fulfillment and peace. As we step into Book 10, we are invited to contemplate the grand, cosmic order of things. Marcus Aurelius urges us to lift our gaze from the immediate concerns of our lives and recognize the vastness of the universe in which we exist. He writes, "Look at the stars and see yourself running with them." This metaphor is more than just a poetic reflection. It is a call to shift our perspective from the small, often self-centered view of our individual lives to a broader understanding of our place in the cosmos. The universe, in the Stoic view, is not an indifferent or hostile entity. Instead, it is a living, breathing organism, a vast and intricate system where everything is interconnected. Marcus emphasizes that, as human beings, we are part of this greater whole. We are not separate from the cosmos, but a small part of it, playing our own unique role in the larger fabric of existence. By contemplating the stars, Marcus invites us to remember that our lives, with all their struggles and frustrations, are but a fleeting moment in the context of eternity. The trivial concerns that occupy our minds, the frustrations of daily life, the battles we fight, the things that cause us distress, are insignificant when viewed from the perspective of the cosmos. In the grand sweep of time, the universe continues its eternal cycle, and we, too, are part of that cycle, subject to the same natural laws that govern the heavens and the earth. This cosmic perspective is essential for Stoic practice because it puts our human concerns into perspective. When we think about our troubles in the context of the vast universe, they seem smaller, more manageable. This does not mean that we ignore or dismiss our struggles, but that we learn to view them with humility and equanimity. We are part of something much larger than ourselves, and the struggles we face are part of the natural order. They are neither good nor bad in themselves. They simply are. It is our judgment of them that determines whether they bring us peace or distress. Marcus reminds us of the importance of humility in the face of the cosmos. Remember that you are a part of the whole, he writes, and that you are always moving toward your own end, as the rest of the universe is moving toward its own. This reflection on the transience of life and the inevitability of death helps us to stay grounded and humble. We are not immortal. We are not the center of the universe. Instead, we are part of the ever-changing flow of life, contributing to the whole while also being shaped by it. Marcus's reflections on cosmic perspective also extend to how we view our own existence. He writes, "What is it that you're doing? You are fulfilling your role as part of the whole. Do not complain about your small part in the larger order of things." This reminder is powerful because it urges us to see our daily actions, however small or mundane they may seem, as part of a much larger and more meaningful process. Every action we take is an integral part of the universe's unfolding story. By performing our duties with integrity, humility, and focus, we contribute to the harmony of the greater whole. Marcus encourages us to look at life's challenges as opportunities for growth and learning. The difficulties we encounter are not random or meaningless. They are a part of the natural order, a necessary part of our journey as human beings. Accept the moment, he writes, as it is, and do what you can with it. This acceptance of the moment, of the present, as it is, brings us closer to living in harmony with nature. It helps us to stop resisting the flow of life, to stop wishing things were different, and to embrace the reality of the moment with grace and composure. Section 2. Duty, Service, and Acceptance of Death. Moving into Book 11, Marcus Aurelius shifts his attention to the Stoic concept of duty and service. Duty, for the Stoic, is not a burden to bear, but an opportunity to live in accordance with nature. Marcus writes, "You were born to work with others to contribute to the common good. It is in this that your life finds meaning." The Stoic view of duty is rooted in the understanding that human beings are inherently social creatures. Our purpose is not to live for ourselves alone, but to serve others, to contribute to the well-being of the larger community, and to live in accordance with the natural law. This idea of service is not limited to grand, heroic acts. It is found in the everyday actions that contribute to the functioning of society. Whether we are parents, workers, friends, or citizens, our duty is to contribute to the good of the whole. Marcus reminds us that by performing our duties with integrity and focus, we fulfill our role in the natural order and contribute to the greater harmony of the universe. However, Marcus also acknowledges that this sense of duty can sometimes feel overwhelming. At times, we may feel as though the weight of the world is upon us, or that the demands placed on us are too much to bear. In these moments, Marcus teaches us to return to our core understanding of duty. The difficulty lies not in what you are doing, but in how you are doing it. It is not the task that is difficult, but the mindset with which you approach it. This shift in perspective is crucial. When we focus on our duties with a clear, focused mind, we can approach even the most challenging situations with calm and composure. Instead of seeing our duties as burdens, we learn to see them as opportunities to act with virtue, to live in accordance with our nature, and to contribute to the greater good. In this context, Marcus reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles. We are part of a larger community, and our actions are interconnected with the actions of others. By fulfilling our duty, we contribute to the well-being of all. Marcus writes, "What benefits the whole benefits you." This reminder calls us to remember that our lives are intertwined with those of others, and by living virtuously, we help create a better world for everyone. In Book 12, Marcus turns his attention to death, the ultimate reality that shapes all of Stoic thought. Throughout the meditations, Marcus reflects on death not as something to be feared, but as a natural part of the cycle of life. He writes, "Do not despise death, but welcome it, for nature also wills it." This acceptance of death is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believe that to fear death is to fear life itself. Death is not an end, but a return to the natural order. It is not something to be mourned, but something to be embraced with grace. Marcus teaches us that the fear of death often stems from our attachment to life as we know it. We are attached to our bodies, to our experiences, and to our relationships. But all of these things are temporary. Death is the final reminder that everything in life is fleeting and that we must live fully in the present moment. What is it that you are afraid of? Marcus asks. You are part of nature. Death is part of nature. It is simply a return to the whole. This reflection on death serves as both a comfort and a call to action. The Stoic does not fear death because they understand that it is a natural part of the cosmic order. Instead of fearing death, Marcus encourages us to live fully and with purpose. We do not know when our time will come, but while we are alive, we can choose to live with integrity, to fulfill our duties, and to contribute to the common good. As we contemplate Marcus's reflections on duty, service, and death, we are reminded that life is fragile and time is limited. Death is inevitable, but it is not something to be feared. Instead, it is a part of the natural order, a part of the universe's continuous flow. By accepting this truth, we are freed from the fear of death and can focus on living fully in the present moment. Marcus's final reflections in Book 12 encourage us to embrace our mortality and live with purpose. Live as if you were to die tomorrow, he writes, but act as if you were to live forever. This is not a call to reckless abandon, but to live intentionally with a clear sense of purpose and virtue. Every moment is precious, and by living in accordance with nature, we can make the most of the time we have. As we move further into Book 12, Marcus Aurelius continues to explore the themes of death and the acceptance of life's inevitable end. These reflections are not morbid or depressing, but serve as a call to action. By contemplating our mortality, we are reminded of the preciousness of each moment. This realization, in turn, helps us to focus on what truly matters, living with virtue, contributing to the greater good, and embracing the flow of life with serenity and purpose. Marcus writes, "Do not despise death, but welcome it, for nature also wills it." This powerful reminder helps us reframe our understanding of death. It is not an end, but a natural return to the greater cosmos. In the Stoic view, death is not to be feared or resisted, but to be accepted as part of the larger cycle of existence. Just as the seasons change, so too does life and death unfold according to nature's law. By accepting death as part of the natural order, we free ourselves from the fear of it. Marcus teaches us that fear of death is rooted in attachment to our bodies, to our lives, and to our possessions. But everything in life is temporary, and death, as natural as birth, is simply another step in the eternal flow of the universe. This acceptance of death does not mean we live in despair, but that we live more fully, more purposefully, knowing that our time is limited. In another meditation, Marcus writes, "Why are you disturbed? You will not live forever. Remember, your time is fleeting, and every moment should be lived with intention." This is a reminder of the urgency with which we must approach our lives. The awareness of death heightens the value of each moment. Instead of procrastinating or delaying the good, we are encouraged to act now. Every day presents an opportunity to live virtuously, to fulfill our duties, and to contribute to the common good. The recognition that death could come at any moment gives us the courage to act with clarity and purpose, without hesitation or regret. Marcus's reflections on death are not solely about accepting the inevitability of our own mortality, but also about recognizing the impermanence of all things. He encourages us to think of our lives as part of a much larger whole. "You are a part of the whole," he writes. "Why do you resist the flow of the cosmos?" This is a call to align ourselves with the natural order of the universe. Just as the leaves fall from the trees, just as the stars rise and set, so too must we accept our place in the great cycle of life. To resist death is to resist nature itself. To live fully is to live in harmony with this natural rhythm. As we reflect on Marcus's meditations about death, we are invited to examine how we live in relation to this inevitable truth. Do we fear death? Do we live each day as though it is a gift, knowing that it could be our last? The Stoic approach is to acknowledge the reality of our mortality without being consumed by it. We are not meant to live in fear of death, but to live fully with clarity, virtue, and purpose. By doing so, we come to understand that death, rather than being something to dread, can be a source of peace, for it is the final return to the natural order. In addition to contemplating death, Marcus Aurelius also reflects on the importance of duty in our lives. In his view, duty is not just a responsibility, but an opportunity to live in accordance with nature and to contribute to the greater good. He reminds us, "You were born to serve others, to contribute to the whole. This is your purpose, your calling." The Stoic philosophy teaches that our lives are not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of the community. The practice of fulfilling our duties with integrity and focus is central to Stoic thought. Marcus writes, "You are not here to live for yourself alone. You are here to contribute to the whole of society, to serve the common good." This sense of duty is not limited to grand acts of heroism. It encompasses the daily tasks, the small acts of kindness, the work we do for the benefit of others. Whether we are leaders, caregivers, or workers, we all have a role to play in the larger tapestry of life. By fulfilling our duties, we align ourselves with the natural flow of the universe. Marcus emphasizes that living according to our purpose brings peace and fulfillment. It is not in the pursuit of fame or wealth that we find meaning, but in the small, humble actions that contribute to the greater good. The Stoics' focus is not on external validation, but on the inner peace that comes from knowing we are fulfilling our purpose. In a later meditation, Marcus further explores the concept of service to others. He writes, "What does it mean to serve others? It means to contribute to their well-being, to help them in whatever way you can." This reflection reminds us that our actions are not isolated. They have an impact on those around us. Service is an essential part of the Stoic vision of life. It is through service to others that we fulfill our own sense of purpose and contribute to the harmony of the greater whole. Marcus does not limit service to the obvious acts of kindness or charity, but also includes the smaller, everyday actions that contribute to the well-being of others. Whether we are helping a colleague, supporting a friend, or simply being kind to those around us, every act of service is an opportunity to live in accordance with our values. Service, in the Stoic sense, is not about seeking personal gain or recognition, but about contributing to the common good without expectation of reward. This selfless approach to service aligns perfectly with the Stoic ideal of justice. Marcus teaches us that justice is not simply about adhering to laws or societal rules, but about acting with fairness, compassion, and respect for others. Justice is the will to do what is right, regardless of the personal cost, he writes. This commitment to doing what is right, regardless of external circumstances, is at the heart of the Stoic way of life. It is through our just actions that we align ourselves with the natural order and contribute to the greater good. Finally, as we reflect on these themes, we come to the core of Marcus Aurelius's meditations on death and duty. He writes, "Death is not to be feared, for it is a return to the natural world. It is the ultimate acceptance of the cosmic law, the completion of the cycle of life. The awareness of our mortality is what gives life its meaning. By accepting death as a natural part of existence, we are able to live more fully in the present moment." The Stoic perspective is not to fear death, but to live in such a way that when death comes, we can accept it with grace and peace. In this way, death becomes not something to mourn, but something to welcome as the final return to nature. We are reminded that all things are impermanent, and that it is in our acceptance of impermanence that we find peace. When we live with the awareness that life is fleeting, we are more likely to make the most of our time, to act with purpose, and to live in accordance with our true values. As we continue into the second section of Part 5, Marcus Aurelius brings us back to the essence of Stoic living, the full acceptance of mortality and the realization that life, as we know it, is impermanent. We often try to avoid death, pretending it is distant and irrelevant, but Marcus gently urges us to confront this inevitability directly. "Do not despise death," he writes, "but welcome it, for nature also wills it." This call to welcome death is not an encouragement toward despair or a passive acceptance of our fate, but rather a call to live fully, knowing that life's transient nature gives it meaning and urgency. When we understand that death is not an adversary, but an ally in helping us live purposefully, we are freed from the fear that often shackles us. In the same way that we have no control over the beginning of life, we have no control over its end. The Stoic, by accepting this truth, removes the fear of death from their life, replacing it with a serene acceptance. Death is not something to mourn or resist, but simply a part of nature's great cycle, a natural conclusion to our time in the world. For Marcus, this awareness of death is not a dark thought to be avoided, but a key that unlocks the door to living well. By reflecting on our inevitable end, we are encouraged to make the most of the time we have. Instead of spending our lives in pursuit of wealth, fame, or power, things that are ultimately fleeting and outside of our control, we can focus on the things that truly matter: the cultivation of virtue, the fulfillment of our duties, and the contribution to the common good. This shift in focus is crucial for the Stoic, as it allows us to live with integrity and clarity rather than chasing after illusions. In his reflections, Marcus reminds us that it is through our actions, the choices we make, the duties we fulfill, and the contributions we offer, that we leave our mark on the world. He often asks, "What is it that you are doing? Are you fulfilling your purpose in the world?" These questions invite us to examine our lives and make sure that we are living in accordance with nature, using the time we have to act with wisdom and virtue. This focus on action leads us to a profound understanding that what truly matters is not what we acquire or what others think of us, but the character we develop and the good we do. Marcus's reflections on death are not solely about accepting the inevitability of our own mortality, but also about recognizing the impermanence of all things. He encourages us to think of our lives as part of a much larger whole. "You are a part of the whole," he writes. "Why do you resist the flow of the cosmos?" This is a call to align ourselves with the natural order of the universe. Just as the leaves fall from the trees, just as the stars rise and set, so too must we accept our place in the great cycle of life. To resist death is to resist nature itself. To live fully is to live in harmony with this natural rhythm. As we reflect on Marcus's meditations about death, we are invited to examine how we live in relation to this inevitable truth. Do we fear death? Do we live each day as though it is a gift, knowing that it could be our last? The Stoic approach is to acknowledge the reality of our mortality without being consumed by it. We are not meant to live in fear of death, but to live fully with clarity, virtue, and purpose. By doing so, we come to understand that death, rather than being something to dread, can be a source of peace, for it is the final return to the natural order. In addition to contemplating death, Marcus Aurelius also reflects on the importance of duty and service in our lives. In his view, duty is not just a responsibility, but an opportunity to live in accordance with nature and to contribute to the greater good. He reminds us, "You were born to work with others to contribute to the whole." The Stoic view of duty is rooted in the understanding that human beings are inherently social creatures. Our purpose is not to live for ourselves alone, but to serve others, to contribute to the well-being of the larger community, and to live in accordance with the natural law. In this light, duty becomes not a burden, but a natural part of the Stoic's life, a source of fulfillment and purpose. The Stoic's sense of duty is not limited to great or public acts, but is reflected in the small, everyday actions that contribute to the well-being of others. Whether we are tending to our family, fulfilling our professional responsibilities, or simply being kind to a stranger, every action contributes to the greater whole. Marcus writes, "Your role is to act with integrity, to contribute to society, to live justly, and to serve the greater good." Living in accordance with our duties allows us to align ourselves with the greater cosmic order. When we fulfill our roles in society, whether large or small, we contribute to the harmony of the world. By doing so, we not only help others, but also find fulfillment ourselves. It is in this service to others that we discover the true meaning of life. By living for the well-being of others, we align ourselves with nature's order, and we find inner peace. Marcus emphasizes that service is not about recognition or reward. It is about fulfilling our role without expectation of gratitude or praise. What benefits the whole benefits you, he reminds us. This Stoic ideal of selfless service is an antidote to the modern obsession with fame and recognition. We are not here to make a name for ourselves, but to contribute to the greater good. And it is in this service that we find the true measure of our lives. As Marcus turns to justice in Book 9, he reflects on the importance of treating others with fairness and compassion. You are part of the whole, he writes, and what benefits the whole benefits you. This is a reminder that our actions are not isolated. They have an impact on the people around us, and our well-being is intrinsically connected to the well-being of others. Marcus's understanding of justice is rooted in the recognition that we are all part of a larger human community. To act justly is to recognize the inherent dignity and worth of every individual. It is to treat others with fairness and respect, regardless of their status, wealth, or background. The Stoic ideal of justice is not based on the letter of the law, but on the spirit of fairness and compassion. We are not here to judge others harshly or to condemn them for their faults. Instead, we are called to understand them, to recognize that their flaws are part of their humanity, just as our own flaws are part of ours. To live justly is to practice compassion, which Marcus often emphasizes as essential to human flourishing. What is my similar fault? He asks when confronted by the wrongs of others. This question encourages us to recognize that we all share the same human flaws. We are all imperfect, and when we understand this, we can approach others with greater empathy and understanding. Instead of reacting with anger or resentment, we can respond with patience and kindness, knowing that the same faults we see in others reside within us as well. As we turn our attention to self-compassion, Marcus reminds us that we must extend the same kindness and understanding to ourselves that we offer to others. Do not be harsh with yourself, he writes. You are a work in progress, just as others are. This reminder is essential in the practice of Stoicism. The Stoic is not someone who is harsh or self-critical, but someone who recognizes their imperfections with compassion and strives to improve without undue self-judgment. Self-compassion, in the Stoic sense, is not about indulgence or avoiding responsibility. Rather, it is about accepting our humanity, acknowledging our flaws, and taking responsibility for our actions without falling into the trap of self-condemnation. You are not perfect, and you do not need to be perfect, Marcus writes. What matters is that you live according to your principles, that you act with integrity, and that you continue to strive for virtue. The practice of self-compassion allows us to move forward without being weighed down by guilt or regret. We can learn from our mistakes and failures, but we do not need to let them define us. Each day is a new opportunity to live in accordance with our values, to serve others, and to contribute to the greater good. In this sense, self-compassion becomes a powerful tool for growth and self-improvement. In his final reflections in Book 12, Marcus Aurelius returns to the idea of cosmic order and the inevitability of change. Everything is in flux, he writes. Everything comes and goes. Life itself is part of the great cosmic cycle. This reflection on the impermanence of life is a reminder that everything in the universe is constantly changing. Just as we cannot hold onto the moments of our lives, we cannot hold onto anything in the external world. Everything is subject to the laws of nature, and we are merely participants in the larger process. The acceptance of life cycles, including birth and death, success and failure, is central to Stoic philosophy. By recognizing that everything is temporary, we free ourselves from attachment. We can appreciate the present moment for what it is, without clinging to it or fearing its eventual end. Life in all its beauty and difficulty is part of the grand cosmic design, and by accepting this, we can live with peace and equanimity. As we come to the final section of our journey through Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, we are invited to step back and reflect on the core Stoic principles that have shaped this entire narrative. Marcus's reflections have touched upon the nature of life, death, duty, virtue, and the cosmic order. But now it's time to turn our attention to how we can incorporate these teachings into our own lives. The Stoic philosophy that Marcus embraced is built upon three core disciplines: the discipline of assent, the discipline of desire, and the discipline of action. These three pillars provide a framework for living a life of virtue and tranquility, regardless of the external circumstances we face. The discipline of assent is concerned with how we judge and interpret the events that happen to us. It teaches us that we have control over our thoughts, our judgments, and our reactions. The events that occur in our lives are not inherently good or bad. They simply are. It is our opinions about them that create distress or peace. Marcus reminds us that we have the power to change our thoughts, to see things as they truly are, and to accept what we cannot change. Through this discipline, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. When we embrace the discipline of assent, we recognize that it is not the world that disturbs us, but our judgments of the world. The discipline of desire is about cultivating temperance and aligning our desires with nature. Stoics believe that we should not be driven by the pursuit of external goods, wealth, fame, pleasure, but rather by the desire for virtue, wisdom, and inner peace. When our desires are aligned with what is natural and virtuous, we experience tranquility. Marcus Aurelius teaches that the things we chase after, money, status, power, are not the true sources of happiness. Instead, we should seek to desire only what is in our control, our actions, our character, and our responses to the world. The discipline of action focuses on living virtuously and fulfilling our duties. Stoicism is not a passive philosophy. It is one of active engagement with the world. The discipline of action teaches us to perform our duties with integrity and purpose, whether those duties are large or small. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we are born to contribute to the greater good, and it is through our actions, both big and small, that we fulfill our role in the universe. The Stoic approach to action is not about seeking external rewards, but about fulfilling our purpose and living in accordance with nature. As we consider these three disciplines, we are reminded that the Stoic path is one of continuous practice. Marcus's reflections on virtue, justice, and duty are not abstract ideas. They're principles to be lived every day. The Stoic does not live according to these teachings only when it is easy or convenient, but strives to embody them in every moment. The consistency of small, virtuous actions is what shapes our character and transforms our lives. By cultivating the discipline of assent, the discipline of desire, and the discipline of action, we slowly but surely begin to change the way we engage with the world. This brings us to the concept of practical application, how we can integrate these Stoic principles into our daily routines and lives. One of the first steps is to establish a daily practice of reflection and self-examination. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote in his meditations not to impress others or to seek fame, but as a way to hold himself accountable and to remind himself of his duties and his purpose. One way we can apply Stoicism in our own lives is to begin each day with a moment of reflection, asking ourselves, what is my purpose today? How can I fulfill my duties and live in accordance with nature? Another important aspect of applying Stoicism is premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This practice involves mentally preparing for the challenges and difficulties we will face in life. Instead of being blindsided by adversity, the Stoic prepares for it ahead of time. This is not to invite negativity, but to acknowledge that hardship is a natural part of life. By anticipating difficulties, we are better able to respond with calmness and clarity when they arise. Marcus teaches us to expect that life will not always go as planned and to embrace challenges as opportunities for growth. In addition to these practices, the Stoic approach to desire offers another path to tranquility. By aligning our desires with virtue and nature, we can begin to detach from external sources of happiness and fulfillment. This does not mean rejecting pleasure or success, but rather understanding that our true happiness lies in living virtuously, not in acquiring things or seeking approval from others. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that happiness does not come from external circumstances, but from within, from the quality of our thoughts, the depth of our character, and our ability to act with integrity. As we look at Marcus Aurelius's legacy, we see that his teachings continue to resonate, not just for those in positions of power, but for all of us. His meditations, written in the solitude of military camps, were never meant to be published or read by others. They were his own private thoughts, reflections, and reminders, an intimate dialogue with himself about how to live virtuously in a world full of challenges. Yet, despite their personal nature, Marcus's reflections have stood the test of time. His words continue to guide millions of people around the world, offering wisdom that transcends eras and cultures. Marcus's legacy is one of profound humility, deep wisdom, and quiet strength. As the ruler of one of the greatest empires the world has ever known, he was faced with immense responsibility, pressure, and adversity. Yet, through his philosophy, he was able to maintain his inner peace, act with justice, and lead with compassion. His ability to navigate the complexities of life with such clarity and focus is a testament to the power of Stoic principles. In many ways, Marcus Aurelius represents the ideal Stoic, not because of his power or status, but because of his commitment to virtue, his humility, and his unwavering dedication to living in accordance with nature. His legacy reminds us that no matter our station in life, we all have the potential to live virtuously and contribute to the greater good. Stoicism offers a way to navigate life's challenges with grace, wisdom, and courage, and Marcus Aurelius exemplified this in his own life. Finally, we come to the continuity of wisdom. As we reflect on Marcus's teachings, we recognize that Stoic principles are not simply ancient relics, but practical tools for living well in the modern world. The world may have changed since Marcus's time, but human nature has remained the same. We still struggle with desires, distractions, and difficulties. We still face the inevitability of death and the challenge of living a virtuous life. The wisdom Marcus offered is timeless, offering a blueprint for living with purpose and tranquility. So, as you reflect on this journey through Marcus Aurelius's meditations, consider how you can integrate these teachings into your own life. Remember that the Stoic path is not about perfection, but about progress. It is a continuous process of self-examination, growth, and action. By committing to the three disciplines of Stoicism, the discipline of assent, the discipline of desire, and the discipline of action, you can begin to live more in harmony with nature, act with virtue, and find peace in the present moment. As we conclude this journey through the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius's meditations, we are reminded that the essence of Stoicism is not about seeking external validation or avoiding the challenges of life. Rather, it is about cultivating inner peace, living in accordance with nature, and finding purpose in our duties to others. Marcus's reflections on death, virtue, justice, and the acceptance of life's impermanence have guided us through a profound exploration of how to live meaningfully and with tranquility, no matter what circumstances we may face. By incorporating the core teachings of Stoicism, the discipline of assent, the discipline of desire, and the discipline of action, into our own lives, we can navigate the complexities of existence with clarity, resilience, and compassion. The Stoic path is one of continuous self-examination, growth, and intentional living, where each moment presents an opportunity to act with integrity and contribute to the greater good. Now, as we step back from this journey of reflection and wisdom, I wish you a peaceful and restful night. Let the insights of Marcus Aurelius settle gently in your mind, like a soft breeze on a quiet evening. May they guide you into a deep, restful sleep, where you can find peace in the embrace of your dreams. Sleep well, and may you wake refreshed, ready to face the new day with clarity, purpose, and calmness. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with serenity and wisdom.